What the Tech is sponsored by IT Dev Connection in Las Vegas, September 15th to the 19th. Register now using offer code TECH14 to save $200.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Major Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by the one, the only, the Windows man himself, Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
The Windows man.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever called you that?
No. It's okay. I sort of understood what you meant.
So we're doing a show on Thursday today because Paul was traveling. You're back home, obviously.
Yep.
You're done. Did you suffer from jet lag?
Oh, yes.
How like, tell me about it, because my wife, she went through none of that. Like, she was up and running like normal the following day.
You know, your wife is like so active and healthy. I almost resent her. But
I really don't know how she does it.
I'm trying to figure out which way is harder. I mean, when we went out to Spain, we got on that schedule pretty quickly. For whatever reason, that happened nicely. Coming back, it's not so easy. You find yourself falling asleep very early because when you think about it, 6-hour time difference to Spain from here. So 9 o'clock at night is 3 o'clock in the morning to your body. And so, you know, the first night we were home, we tried to stay up till 10, which we kind of did. But, you know, like I was just telling you before the show, I mean, last night, fell asleep on the couch watching a movie. I just can't, you know, then you get up at 6 in the morning, which is a little earlier than I like to get up, but not hugely early. But I just find myself losing it at night. Like it's going to take the better part of the week. You know, you'll have these days where you think I got it now. I'm on the schedule. And it's like, yeah, you're really not.
Yeah. For me, like even going, like I love it when I go out to the West Coast because I could stay up all night.
Yes.
And then when I come back,
I like it because I'm a morning person.
Yeah, I am too.
You know?
So for me, it's like, holy crap, look how much time I have in my day. Every time I look at the watch,
the whole
like,
day's in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah, like in my mind, I'm still on East Coast time, so it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, oh my god, it's like nighttime in New York. So like that's fine. But
I'm experiencing that like right now today because this morning I got up at 6. You know, you eat breakfast, you kind of putz around the kitchen or whatever, and then you know it's like 7:30, and you're like, well,
that's it.
Time for work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 90 minutes before I would normally start, but I'm up. You know.
So I'm having the worst tech day of my life today. Where do I begin?
Well,
how do I explain this? So far,
yeah.
So far, last night I spilt beer all over my MacBook. So that's not good. My keyboard is totally shot. I'm using this as my keyboard on the MacBook. Just a wireless keyboard. I opened the thing. So it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm getting ready to go to bed, and we had some beer. So like I came up with the beer like an idiot, and I put it next to my, on the nightstand, and I put the laptop there. My dog was like sniffing around on the nightstand to like get food because I had like a little piece of chocolate. So I'm like, no, don't do that. And I knocked the entire glass of beer all over the MacBook. So instantly
This is a story that makes you seem less ridiculous than what probably really happened, which was that you were drunk and you went into like tweet stuff. You spilled beer all over your laptop.
I wish that's what I did. Like at least I was attempting something productive. I don't even know what
Right.
I don't even know what my hand was doing that far at. Like it made no sense for me to knock it the way that I did. Knock the beer all over it. The thing is soaked. I mean, it was just a giant thing. I go, oh crap, that's it. It's done.
Right.
I shut everything down. Thank God I have an older MacBook so I could take the back off and disconnect the battery, and I did all that. I removed everything from it. I dried it out.
Yeah.
I left it overnight. This morning I go, the keyboard's not working, but everything else is working. So I probably shorted the keyboard. It's an easy fix, $40. I'm done.
Right.
Only if that's what's going to happen. I mean, I'm going to find out tomorrow if that's the case, but it's a pain in the ass to kind of change everything around and unscrew because it has 51 screws, tiny little screws for the keyboard. So, I don't know. Now it's a whole thing. Now I got to go through this tomorrow.
What kind of beer was this?
Singha.
Oh, that's not a terrible beer.
You know what? I didn't like it. There was probably something wrong with this bottle because that's why I did not drink it because it tasted funny. That was my problem. So now I have to go through this entire thing where I'm hoping this works. If it doesn't, I have to buy a new computer.
Well, potentially. I mean, you could probably bring it to an Apple store and have them look at it.
They are going to probably charge me about $700.
Well, I mean, just look. I mean, at least have them look at it.
I don't even want them near it. I don't want them near anything. It's just such a nightmare, and it's all my fault. I mean, that's the whole thing. So I have that issue happening. This morning I get up. I'm like, okay, whatever. I could fix this. I go to set up the show, and your camera source is not working. I have no idea why. It was working fine yesterday when I tested everything. Everything was perfect, and all of a sudden now that's not working. So today is a tech nightmare in every sense of the word or the phrase. It's just one of those days.
This is what life must be like for the Chromebook user every day. You know?
You know what's funny, though? And I think about this. I was taking my shower, and I'm like, I just want all this to go away, right? Like, if I just became a normal person that didn't give a crap about any of this, like, I don't care about computers. I could just walk around with my iPhone and use that for everything. I would not have this problem. At all. Life would be so simple if that was the case. I just want to be an iPhone user, Paul. I just want to be an iPhone user. Make life so much simpler.
Well, in a month or less than a month, a couple of weeks, we might all be iPhone users. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Paul, why don't we talk about Windows 9 a little bit?
Okay.
It's nothing new really has come out except for a confirmation of sorts.
Yeah.
One, that it will be named Windows 9.
Where did you hear that?
On your website?
Okay.
Am I right?
Well, I wrote that some time ago.
Okay.
So that's something that could potentially change. But,
okay.
Yeah.
So we kind of know that. Number two, we know that we are going to get a preview of this in a month. So here are my couple questions for you for the preview. One, how complete will the preview be?
Right. So
because it is pretty far along, right? I mean, they have been playing this for a while, and technically a lot of the stuff was supposed to be released with this Windows 8 update that's been pushed out. So a lot of the stuff, it should be kind of complete, right?
Yeah. I mean, my expectation is that this thing maps kind of to Windows 8.1 in the sense that it's not a major release, even though they're going to market it and sell it as such. And that it's, a continuation and evolution of the work that started in 8.1, continued in Update 1, where a big part of it is just making Windows work better with traditional PCs again, kind of reversing some of the stuff in Windows 8 for those people on normal computers. So yeah, I would expect it to be fairly complete in that sense. The one thing that I've heard that I think is a big deal is that they're really kind of pushing it toward business users and the enterprise. And that's important because as difficult as Windows 8 was for virtually everyone, it was particularly difficult for the enterprise because it wasn't a traditional PC operating system, a traditional version of Windows. And so they're trying to make sure that they release a version that people who are on Windows 7 now or Windows XP, if they're still on that for whatever reason, will feel comfortable upgrading to. And
when they market this product, do you think it's going to be marketed more enterprise-centric with their ads and the way that they kind of push it? Because that's what I'm really curious about is how are they going to market this product where, 2 years prior, it was, this has changed. This is the new Windows. Yeah. This is new. This is what you want. And now it's like, oh, wait a minute. Actually, it's not really what you want. You want what you had.
I actually think that, based on what we've heard too, I mean, Mary Jo Foley has talked a lot about how RT-type devices or the consumer tablet-type devices will potentially do away with the desktop, or at the very least minimize the desktop experience. And so, in essence, I think what they're going to do is take the one system and just dynamically meld it to whatever you're using so that it's appropriate for that device. So if you have a tablet, you're going to have a touch interface by default, and potentially not even a desktop interface depending on the version. Same thing with phones, and that if you're on a big screen PC like mine with a keyboard and a mouse, it's going to look like Windows 7 basically. It's going to be desktop, floating windows, start menu, not a start screen, that kind of thing. So A lot of people have wondered why they didn't release those as two separate systems, but they're still trying to push, one system, but something that dynamically adapts to the hardware that you have. And you see that a little bit today in Windows 8.1, and I think you're going to see it more.
So, I mean, there are going to be people that are not really affected by the changes, that people that have a traditional desktop computer are going to see. If you have a touch-based laptop, then it's going to be the same exact thing, right?
Or an evolution of it. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's actually, it's kind of interesting if you think about it, because if you did follow along with Microsoft like I did, like you went from Windows Vista to 7, and then you went to Windows 8, and some of those transitions were very difficult, especially to 8, because 8 was so different. If you transition from 8 to 9, it should be a seamless transition, regardless of what kind of hardware you have. A traditional PC, desktop interface, it'll be even more of that. In fact, what we're hearing in some ways is that even more of the Metro stuff will be gone and potentially not even available, or at least de-emphasized.
Between the preview and the final version?
No, between the previous version.
Previous version, okay.
But, if you're the mainstream of the Windows user base, meaning you're on Windows 7, you need something that will be a natural upgrade for you. One of the things I've discovered over the past couple of years is that a lot of the people who I know eventually will upgrade their computer, get a new computer, and I'll hear from them. They'll say, "What is this mess? What is this thing? Can I get rid of this? Can I go back to Windows 7?" I mean, they're genuinely confused by this new interface,
and that's been everybody that I've come in contact with. I mean, I'm not. But by the way, when I say everybody, I mean family, relatives, friends that are not really tech savvy, and they just walk into a store, they buy a new laptop because something happened to their old one. They've had it since 2006, and now all of a sudden it's this, and they don't understand it. It's a surprise,
right? And that's the thing. And so I look, my website is aimed at enthusiasts. These are people who are kind of on the leading edge. We're moving along, and a lot of these people are saying, "I don't understand it. Windows 8 rather is fine. It works fine for me. I get it. I've taken the time to understand it. I don't understand why other people have a problem with it." And the thing that those people need to understand is that like 90-something% of people that use Windows 8 hate it, want it to be different, are confused by it, never find some of those interfaces that the rest of us kind of use naturally and don't think anything about. And that's the difficult thing that people need to just remember. It's just because it works well for you, and it does. It works well for me.
And I mean, you still have pretty much the same opinion that you did 2 years ago when you were saying, I like this and I like that. You really haven't shifted your opinion on your personal use on this thing?
No, not at all. But what happens is I'll write a story where I say, this is a disaster. And the reason it's a disaster is because people hate it and people are confused by it and all those things we just talked about. And then I'll get feedback from people who say, "But Paul, you said that you loved Windows 8. What you're backtracking or you're flip-flopping." It's like, no. Like, I use it every day. It's fine. I've been using it since, December 2009 or whatever it is. I mean, I'm okay with it. But I've come to understand, like I approach it also from a kind of a tech enthusiast perspective. Like I look at how crazy the changes are and I think, wow, Microsoft did this nutso thing. It's crazy. And I sort of understand, and I do understand why they did it, because the truth is, had Microsoft released a tablet OS, no one would have bought that thing. And their strategy was just to push it on everyone as a way to get it out in the market quickly, which was, smart strategically on the surface of things. But anyway, it's just, it becomes clear over time as people provide you with feedback, and of course Microsoft too, to a much greater degree, that nobody likes this thing. No, and I don't mean nobody literally. I mean the vast majority of people.
Yeah. Well, if Microsoft, you brought up something interesting. If Microsoft had released, the Surface tablet, let's just call it a tablet, a Surface tablet with running Windows Phone, running the application that they use for Windows, running that kind of OS, what do you think the perception would have been now, 2-3 years later when, we're still evolving Windows and it's totally separate? Do you think people would have rejected and said, well, this is kind of stupid? I could buy an iPad for that or whatever people would have said, or would people have, embraced it.
There's two sides to this. I mean, on the one hand, Microsoft already had that mature mobile platform in Windows Phone, and that when the Windows team decided to start over with their own thing, they were reinventing the wheel, going back to day one, coming from a point of real immaturity. But the truth is, there was a small percentage of people who are big Windows Phone fans that really wanted and still want that device, a Windows Phone-based tablet. And it's hard for us to see what they did because from our perspective, it's like you already had it. Why did you have to redo everything? But here's the truth. If Microsoft had done a Windows Phone tablet back in 2010, 2012, whatever, it would have failed in the market. It would have been the next Zune. Microsoft was, I don't want to say right, but it's understandable why Microsoft went in the direction that they did. But actually, I'm kind of piling on here.
But if you think about 2010, right? Let's think about what was on the market. You had the iPad.
Well,
the original iPad. So it would have failed, in my opinion. It would have failed no matter what it was. It could have been a great OS. It could have been.
Okay. So the Windows Phone team was too small to take on that at that time. They were launching Windows Phone that year. So I don't think they could have handled both of those things at once. In fact, the Windows Phone team did do two things that year. The other of those two things was the Kin. And so, we all know how that went.
What was the point of that? I think the first time you came on the show before you, you were a host, we were talking about the Kin and the purpose of the Kin. And I kind of forgot, what was the point of it? Was it just an in-between, something that they pushed out that they had?
Yeah, the Kin stuff evolved out of that Danger product that they had.
Yeah,
the
with
Sidekick type stuff.
The Sidekick, yeah.
And, at the time, it's hard to remember back to this time, but at the time, that was going to be aimed at like a younger audience. And it was a kind of in today's terms, it would be like a feature phone kind of a thing. It was not a dumb phone, not a smartphone, but somewhere in the middle. And I guess politically, because Windows Phone replaced Windows Mobile at the time, that work kind of fell under the Windows Phone team, and it was not their primary focus, and they weren't super interested in it. And Verizon was going to be the only carrier, and they really screwed up the pricing and the data plan pricing, and there just wasn't a lot of enthusiasm for it. So it kind of came out half-assed because it was so far along in the pipeline.
Yeah. The data plan was like almost the same. It was the same thing.
It was the same. It was a smartphone data plan on a phone that couldn't do anything. So it was just a terrible. Verizon is really what killed that. And the thing, people make fun of the Kin, but the truth is, just like Zune, I mean, that was actually a pretty great product.
Yeah,
and my kid used one for a long time. He loved it.
If the Kin came out 3 years before.
Well, if the Kin came up when it did and was marketed properly and was sold properly, wasn't attached to a expensive data plan, this would have been a great phone for kids. And today, because the smartphone market is a little more mature, we have this notion of smartphones for kids. And the way that we do that is we throw them on these family plans or whatever. But, back in the day, if you could have just bought the phone for $100 or something and then, $10 a month extra on your plan for the kid to be on there, that would have made plenty of sense. And it's the type of thing that today you can't do it because, today kids are a little more sophisticated. They want the real thing. They want, iPhone, they want Android, whatever. But
back to the tablet, Paul. I mean, a lot of this is great because this is stuff that I always say this is like two guys sitting at a bar talking, and one of them is an idiot and he spills Thai beer all over his laptop and destroys it, and then that's the end of the night, and he goes home moping. That's exactly what happens here. But when we talk about perception of Windows, right? Like, yes, Windows 8 has its problems, and it's not for everybody, and people are rejecting it, but it's also perception. It's the fact that you know Windows, you know what it's supposed to do, and this is not Windows to you. So automatically, you don't like change, so you're saying, well, no, I don't want this. I want my old stuff back. If it was marketed as a tablet separately, I swear to you, the people that hate Metro and hate that UI would be embracing it, would say, wow, this is so great, it's so different, it's revolutionary, almost the same exact thing you hear about Windows Phone. I've never heard anybody complain about the user interface and the functionality of Windows Phone.
Right. I think it's beautiful. I think it works really well. Whatever. I prefer it. Obviously, I use it. I'm used to it, I guess. But
obviously, that's not perfect too. It has problems with the apps. It's been slow to develop apps, and there are minor issues here and there. But every other, it's a new system. It's been out for a couple of years, and it's a work in progress. we're more forgiving of that if it's something new. And I think that's the problem for a lot of people.
Right.
I don't even, it's a weird situation they're in, but it seems like they're able to kind of fix the problems now with the next version. Internally, have you heard people saying like, well, this is it. I mean, we're going to give everybody what they want. That are going to be happy. And this is, we're fine after this, guys. Don't worry. We spent $1 billion on marketing the last one, but it's okay.
So part of the deal behind what's happening with Windows 9 specifically, and with Windows Phone these days as well, is that there's a new team effectively running Windows now. It's a different group, and the guys that were responsible for that kind of unilateral design and forcing that Metro UI on everybody, whether you were on a server or a desktop computer, that kind of thinking is gone. And I have heard privately from many people, we're really sorry we did that. We're not doing that stuff anymore. We're listening to feedback. We care what people think. We want to do what customers want. We don't want to just jam something down their throats. And then explicitly for this preview, it's aimed at Microsoft's most important customer base, businesses / enterprise. These are the guys that were just completely out of the loop. Well, we all were, but they're the big customer base there, and you gotta serve that audience, And so I think from the perspective of a power user or an enthusiast, these changes are also important because we don't have a goofy little tablet that we're browsing the web on. We're doing Visual Studio and Adobe Photoshop and whatever.
And at the same time, we're doing it all at the same time.
We need all that stuff. So we'd like to see them paying attention to that.
Have they reached out to enterprise and kind of said, listen, we're working on this. I know you guys aren't happy with Windows 8. I know you don't want to move over to it, but we are making it better. Have they reached out personally to, I guess, their top, clients when it comes to this kind of stuff? Have they kind of reasserted them that things are going to be okay, and they're working with them to kind of give them what they want?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Microsoft's always had those kinds of outreaches. I mean, they used to have it for consumers too and individuals through beta programs, which they disbanded a long time ago. But they have, their TAP program and other programs for engaging with the enterprise and making sure that, they're delivering the right stuff. And I think with Windows 8, there was this sense of you need to trust us. We know what we're doing. And then the stuff I really hated, which was they would pretend that we're listening to feedback, when in fact they went into each of those for a couple of products a couple of product versions. It was done, and you can provide feedback, but all we care about are bug reports and things like that, not what direction should we be taking. And so it's a big change. It's a really important change, I think, for Windows. So.
I mean, I'm excited for it. So we're looking at the end of September, right? Some of the dates we've seen is September 30th. Yeah. Is that the date now?
Yep.
Okay. Who's going to be able to get this?
Anyone. It should be public. I think it's going to be anyone who wants it.
I'm excited to try it out.
Yeah, I am too.
I mean, we have a month for this, and we're looking at September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So we have about 8 months till it releases. That's a long time to fix everything.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I mean, I'm
the thing that, people, we all have these weird opinions, about whether something's a big deal or not a big deal.
You don't find this to be as big of a deal as a lot of other people do.
Well, I'm trying to be more realistic about it. For example, you could take the same base, you could take Windows, just Windows as it is, and you could change how it looks. And that would be considered a big deal by people because that's how they interact with it. When in fact, none of the underpinning is changing, right? And I think that's what's happening here. I mean, they're making important user experience changes and all that stuff. I think the look and feel of it will be a little different, but under the covers, the core of it, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not like NT kernel 7.0 or something or whatever. It's like still 6. Whatever. It's the next version. It's
minor tweaks.
Technologically, this thing has been mature for a long time, and so we're not changing to a crazy new file system. We're not changing, the way graphics work. We're not, it's not like some of those big upheavals we had in the past. And
by the way, there are performance increases. I mean, in Windows 8 over 7. You don't really hear about
Yep.
it because that's
Yep.
not the big story, but there's about a 10 to 12% boost in performance all around.
And actually, even worse, there are, in fact, a bunch of end user features that are incredible improvements over what's in Windows 7, many of which apply directly to the desktop environment that people don't know about because they see Metro and they turn off. They're like, yep, I don't care. They don't even want to hear it. Massive changes to the way the storage works, the way the file system works. This is a system now in 8.1.1, especially where it can run effectively in 1 gigabyte of RAM. It's on 16 gigabytes of storage.
That's phenomenal. That's great.
It's a huge change from Windows 7. But, people see tiles and they get,
Listen, I'm one of those people. I'm not. I like the interface. I just don't want it on my laptop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my
right.
own issue. If like on a Surface, I get it. It works.
Yeah. So look, I mean, lately I've been traveling with Surface Pro 3, so it kind of gives you the 2-in-1 deal. Mostly a laptop, but you do get you can take the keyboard off, use it like a tablet. There are a couple of decent apps, obviously, on that side. But normally before the Surface Pro 3, let's say if you don't have a kind of a hybrid device, doesn't matter which one it is, if you could have an Ultrabook running Windows 8, whatever. To me, that's a work machine. I use the desktop. I don't really see the Metro stuff, nor do I care about it. And I think that will improve again in Windows 9. And that's fine. I think that's the way it should be. It's, we can brand these things however we want. We can describe them however we want. But the point is, it should work the way you expect it works or to work. And you should be able to do what you want to do on it and not be confronted by weird things, charms popping up in your face when you don't want them, weird little side UIs and all that kind of baloney that, makes plenty of sense when you're holding the screen on the side, but makes no sense at all when you're using a mouse.
I think we should all go back to Amiga. What do you say, Paul? What do you say?
I would like that a lot.
What's the latest version? 4.1 is here. Yeah, I'm on Amiga's website right now.
The Amiga OS.
You can still get it.
I kind of petered out at 3.0, but...
You know what, Paul? I want you to try this.
What's that?
I want you to have the Amiga super site for Amiga users. And just start like your own little group. People just hanging on for dear life.
But the truth is, I look at if you look at I'm looking at it now, like the Amiga Workbench, 4.0, this is old fashioned. This was so great 20 years ago. Today, this is silly. I get it. Listen, no one is more nostalgic for old technology than I am. Except that I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it every day. That's just dumb. It's dumb. I wish it wasn't, but it is.
Well, I mean, but when we're talking about the people that hang on to the past, and we're all guilty of it. I do MS-config, and I turn off the fax, and I turn off the tablet stuff on the Windows machine. I mean, I do the crazy stuff. But we are seeing the same exact thing happen with cloud computing. There is a rejection of sorts for adopting cloud. People don't trust it. They don't want it. They want to hang on to the data. It's almost, it kind of goes hand in hand, right? I mean, it's the same exact thing where I want it my way. I want to keep it the way it is, and that's what I'm going to do.
Well, so, I mean, some of that is healthy. And that's understandable. It's fine. I mean, there is a thing, when you're a technology enthusiast, technology becomes the end, not the means to the end. I mean, the thing that we kind of have to keep in perspective is that most people use this stuff to get some job done. They don't have to sit there and reinstall Windows every day because they can and they're interested in how it works. I mean, it's just you use stuff to get it's solving a problem, hopefully. Things are moving so fast now that we have these devices changing all the time, new versions, new things, cloud services, changing. I mean, at some point, this all has to slow down. It has to mature. I mean, it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
Especially for those people who are literally just using this stuff to get a job done. If you ever go out in the world, you do this around New York City, you go to a bar, you'll see people with an iPhone 4 or a 4S, can't really tell, one of the smaller iPhones, or some old Galaxy S3 or something. And my knee-jerk reaction when I see stuff like that is, wow, what is this person doing?
Why? Why do you have it? Yeah.
Yeah, but then you get it, they obviously don't care, and that thing still works what's the difference?
I see a lot of people with like the lower end Android phones, like random lower end Android phones. I can't even.
Yeah.
I don't even just insert any company.
Sure.
And
it's like an LG, something you've never heard of.
Something you've never heard of. I mean,
3.8-inch screen. And,
it's just a very low end Android phone, not updated. They've had it for a year and a half. And I asked them why they got that, and they'll always say, "Well, it was free." I went in, they told them I want a free phone, and I got it for free. But they don't realize, for the same thing, I mean, for free, you could get an iPhone, for example. You could get a Windows phone. For $49, you could get that HTC, the M8. I mean, you have options, so you don't have to go and spend $299 every time a new phone comes out.
By the way, this is something I think about all the time, and it's not just old technology, which is one way to frame it. It's like good enough technology.
Yeah.
I brought all these phones to Europe because I write about phones, and I had various rationales for each one of the phones that I brought. But one of the devices I brought was that Lumia 635, which is the new $99 Lumia you can get at T-Mobile. And, this is a low-end device. It doesn't have a camera button. It has on-screen buttons, for back, start, and search. It doesn't have some of the sensors that we see on high-end phones. So there's no proximity sensor, which means that you can't have, well, actually, this isn't the reason. There's no ambient light sensor either, which means that you can't automatically set the brightness on the screen. You have to choose between low, medium, and high, like this. So little things like that. So it's not a first-class experience. It's your basic, Windows Phone experience. But here's the thing. This device is wonderful. It feels good in the hand. It's a nice device to use. It's a great media player. It's got free offline maps that you can use as a GPS for years and years to come for free. It works in Europe for free on data and for texting, and then you pay some minimal thing on phone calls because that's what T-Mobile does. That's one of the things they bring to the equation. And I'm walking around with this thing, and I'm thinking, you know what? The camera's garbage, compared to the 10, 20, 15, 20 I might normally use. But all smartphones are garbage compared to those cameras. So, shocker. For most people, that would be a perfectly acceptable phone. And I sometimes think it would be hard to do this because the truth is I need to get online and do podcasts like this or, whatever it is that I do every day. But, would it be possible for even someone like me to get my job done, to get work done on a $300 PC, on a $100 smartphone, on a $99 mini tablet that's coming down the pike sometime in the next couple of months? I mean, I'm really intrigued by this low end part of the market.
Oh, me too. Totally.
It's like computing for everybody. Not just for the elite classes, not just for the Mercedes-Benz driving rich people, but for people.
But see, you brought it up, and I talk about this all the time to my wife. Like we were talking about, she wants another computer, and she's like, well, I had this older MacBook, and it's a little slow. So she's like, I don't know what to get. And we were looking at the Mac. She's like, I don't want to spend that much money. Can we just get something for like $400 or $500? And to me, I think you could get away with getting your work done on a $400 computer. The problem is, you know what it's like not to be on a $400 computer. Most people do not know. So they always think the computer is always going to be slow because the computer that they probably have at work, it's a Windows XP machine from 10 years ago, just sitting there. The computer that they have at home is an older laptop. So they don't know that if you spend $1,500 and get a really high-end laptop, your experience is going to be far more fluid. Fluid? Yeah, it could be fluid. You're going to have an overall better experience based on the performance and everything else that's happening. You're going to be far more efficient. That's the word I'm looking for. It's going to be a far more efficient way of using a computer compared to using a $400 laptop that, you know what? It may take you a half a second longer to load something.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, let's be clear. My needs are not mainstream, right? It's sort of like when you think about a Chromebook or a netbook or whatever low-end computer that people buy because they're inexpensive. People buy them because they're inexpensive, but then they don't. But here's what they don't do: fly every other week to some location on a business trip and need 9 or 12 hours of battery life. They use it around their house.
Yeah,
they use it within a foot or two of a power plug. They can plug it in anytime they want, anywhere in the house. It doesn't matter if it's a little heavy. If it's a big 15-inch Windows laptop. And they're not doing a lot of multitasking. They've got a web browser open. They can do email, web browse, Facebook. whatever, print occasionally.
I mean, Paul, look at the people that use an iPad for everyday
Sure.
use. I mean, everything is done on an iPad. I could never do that. If I was forced to, sure.
No, but you're also not the normal mainstream user. The reason an iPad is nice is because it's light, and it's touch and it's personal and all that stuff. But you can bring it with you. I think that was the appeal of netbooks for a little while, and then we realized they were just tiny computers that didn't run very fast. That's potentially the appeal of a Chromebook, except those things still don't work very well offline, though that's obviously improving. And we'll see. There'll be thin, light, cheap Windows laptops this year. But for people around the house, I think for that, whether it's a replacement computer, a second computer, kind of a family shared computer, a computer for kids where you don't care if they beat the crap out of it because it only costs $150.
Sure.
These things are all fine. They're fine. And again, the technology elites, they kind of make fun of that stuff. And I see this on Twitter all the time. Who would ever want a Windows 8 computer that costs $150? Probably many millions of people.
Most people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so, yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting study. I mean, I would love to do that for, a week is too little, but for 3 weeks or a month, just forget about having the Mac.
It's hard. I've been meaning to do this forever. I will do this. And things always come up. I travel a lot. One of the things I don't want to do is cart around a 15-inch, $300 Windows laptop, But yeah, I mean,
so get rid of your phone. Do this. Get the Nokia 630. Which one's the latest one that they put out?
635.
Okay, 635. Get one of those.
Yeah.
Get a $300 to $400, Windows-based laptop. Just go based on that for a week.
Yeah, just use it for
a week. See sure. How it impacts your day to day.
I bet it would be fine. The only thing, I mean, like you said, once you've experienced the caviar, it's kind of hard to go back to the spam. It's like when you're on the high, like if you drive from Vermont to my house, you can drive 75 miles an hour the entire way. And then you get off the exit where your house is, and all of a sudden you have to go 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because you've just been, you've been cruising. But yeah, I mean, the truth is, even for a power user such as myself, I guess, I mean, I do have occasional needs of, certain high-end things, but most of it is browsing the web, writing in Word, taking notes in OneNote. These are things you can do, I think, on any computer, basically. And it's also aided by the fact, this might be different for other people, but for me, computer usage has changed. I used to do everything on the computer. Like if I went on a trip, my laptop was where I was going to watch movies. So I would rent movies or bring a hard drive with movies on it. The laptop had my music collection on it. If I was going to listen to music while I was writing on the plane or in a hotel room, I'd have my headset or whatever. It would all be on that same machine. The way things are today with phones and tablets too, is that the entertainment experiences kind of go to those other devices, and the laptop becomes more of a single purpose work focused device, which I kind of like that separation personally. I don't have to worry about loading up the hard drive with all of this stuff. I can just have the stuff I need for work.
And that's it. That's all you can do.
It's a simple, it's like a nice separation. Plus, you were talking about cloud and moving to the cloud earlier. I mean, that stuff makes for content, for entertainment content, makes more sense to have that stuff be on the phone anyway, or on a tablet.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a minute and talk about something you're going to be attending and you're going to be speaking at. And that's IT Dev Connections.
Yes.
You're going to be there the 15th to the 19th in the Aria in Las Vegas, a beautiful hotel. You're going to be there with Mary Jo Foley. You're going to have a panel, and it's going to be on the state of Microsoft. Very exciting. I know a lot of people are going to be going to this. I've gotten a lot of messages saying, "Hey, I'm going to see Paul," and afterwards, I'm hoping to get a beer with him. Yeah. So tell us a little bit what you're going to be talking about there. This is a great event. You do it every year. Yeah. And this is the first time you and MJ are doing it together?
The second time.
So
she went last year.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah. We usually we did two things last year. We'll do them again this year. We do a live Windows Weekly that week from the show, which is kind of cool. And then we do a session on, whatever is happening at the time. And so it's kind of we'll talk about Threshold this time and Office Gemini. And it's really kind of a look at the future. And the show itself, it's obviously IT focused, enterprise down to small business, business focused. But the big benefit of this show compared to say like the bigger Microsoft shows or VMworld or whatever is just that it's not Microsoft, which I think has some major benefits because you're not getting a marketing spiel. Like nobody cares if you buy Exchange or if you buy some Microsoft product. It's more pragmatic about getting the job done. And then it's also full of speakers who are, some of whom actually are from Microsoft. We do have a few guys who show up from Microsoft too, but guys who are experts in their field talking about things that matter to this particular audience, and on a smaller scale where you can actually hang out with these people, get to know them, ask them direct questions, do more of that kind of networking type stuff. And I just find, if you've ever been to TechEd, it can be really overwhelming. Whereas you come to a show like this and it's kind of a more intimate thing. And like you were saying, I mean, literally, Mary Jo and I will be going to, I just forgot the name of it, but the Irish bar that's over at Mandalay Bay or whatever.
That's amazing.
Because it's amazing and we're there and everyone's welcome to come. I mean, and that's kind of the neat thing. Like we'll do that kind of meetup type thing when we're there as well. So
yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. There's 5 different technology tracks: Windows, SQL Server, SharePoint, Exchange, and development. 180 sessions. So there's a lot happening. 18 full days of pre and post conference workshops. So even though it's between the 15th and the 19th, there's a lot of stuff happening there. And for me, the key would be the networking opportunities to talk to fellow speakers, sponsors, other attendees, and kind of you see what they're up to and what they're doing. Also, 100 independent experts speaking, and I'm assuming you're one of those. You're part of the expert speakers. Yes. So I think this is awesome. It's, what's funny? I may be in Vegas that week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And if that's the case, I may stop by.
Yeah. Well, if it is the case, you have to.
I have to stop by. Can I just bust through the door?
You can just.
You guys left me out. You guys left me out.
Right.
I'm gonna be that guy. This is an awesome event. IT Dev Connection, September 15th to the 19th at the Aria. If you register, we have a little banner on our website. You can click on that. You can register. You can save $200 by using offer code TECH14. And there's a lot happening. If you're in the industry, this is something you definitely should attend. I want to thank IT Dev Connections for sponsoring What the Tech, and I'm looking forward to getting feedback from people when Paul's at the bar afterwards drinking.
Yes.
And I'm sure, you know what? You're probably going to have a really busy panel because you're talking about Threshold, and it's right around the time of the release. I mean, literally 15 days before it's released, so I know a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions for you. A lot of people.
Yeah. No, it should be good. It's it's always a good time. It's just such a great show.
Today has been one of those days for me. Like I said in the beginning of the show, everything's breaking, nothing is working. So I want to get through a couple more stories and then we can wrap it up. We started the show a little late today. Dropbox changed their package finally. Right. 1 terabyte now, which makes it kind of reasonable for $10 a month instead of 100 gigs.
But I'm still the way things are going these days, it's like Google, Microsoft, obviously, Amazon, even. The big guys, the big online storage guys, are always going to be able to kill a company like Dropbox or Box when it comes to, bang for the buck kind of stuff. And so, $99 for a terabyte of storage for an individual is a much better deal than what they used to have. But for that price, from Microsoft, you could get up to 5 terabytes of storage for 5 different people and get full Office installed on 5 computers each for all 5 of those people and 5 tablets each for all 5 of those people. And there is no way that Dropbox can compete with that. And they will never be able to compete with it. So I'm glad that they're stepping it up as they kind of have to. But, companies like Microsoft especially, but Google as well, they're just always going to be able to beat that.
I mean, it's integrated now, right? Everybody's integrating a Google, Microsoft, Apple.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. So there's that convenience factor. If you're an Apple user, if you use an iPhone, you're going to use iCloud to do, settings, sync backup, device backups and all that kind of stuff. Android guy, you're going to have, probably going to be using the Google services for that. Google Plus Photos to back up your photos that you take with the phone. It's, it's integrated into everything, obviously. It's Google Drive for your data files and so forth. Microsoft side, it's OneDrive. And Dropbox is kind of left out of that. They don't have a platform, and so Dropbox has done a good job of marketing itself. A lot of people know about Dropbox, use Dropbox for whatever reason, but I just feel like from a common sense standpoint, they're really still not competitive. As good as of a bump as this is, you know, you can get a terabyte of free storage on Flickr. Anyone can for free.
Yeah.
If you just want something to, you know, store your photos on.
See, I'm still paying, and I don't know why I'm still paying.
Yeah, I paid for quite a while myself.
Like, I don't know why I still have it. I can't.
I'd have to look at it
out.
because there's still some benefit to doing that. But I can't remember what it is. Yeah.
We were looking at, because I share a lot of like documents and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody uploads their video via my Dropbox. They drop it in and I get it. But like, other than that, why else would I use Dropbox? I think it's just that I'm comfortable with it. You know, I've had it for a couple of years and it works well. And I haven't really gone over to Google storage. All my photos are now on Google. Everything is automatically synced, so I don't think about that. I used to sync it on Dropbox, but it's kind of pointless and redundant to have it in like 3 different places. So I'm slowly phasing it out, but for a lot of people, you know, it's what they know and it works well for them, so they're hanging on to it. It's just interesting with considering Microsoft having their own cloud service for everybody. What are they giving now? 25
for free?
For free.
On just OneDrive. You mean
OneDrive, yeah, consumer OneDrive.
I think it's 15 for free.
But if you have Office,
if you have Office 365 home or personal, you get a terabyte of storage per user.
That's great.
Yeah,
for free.
It's kind of hard. You can't really beat that. You know, it's crazy.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
So they changed their price for people, and the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I saw you wrote about this on your website, and it was a good write up. Amazon acquiring Twitch. And
why?
And why? Why did they buy? So to me, this is their shot at Google with ads. They're going to get into the ad game, and it's a great way to put ads on everything because Twitch right now in prime time is bigger than CNN, MSNBC, and MTV.
Yeah, their notion that, you know, we've been in games for a while, and you know, it's like no,
you haven't. No,
not really. Yeah. I think that the way I look at it is that everyone knows Google was going after Twitch. So I think that part of it is preventing Google from getting Twitch and having, you know, basically just owning online video, period, across the board. So I think that's a part of it. And the other one would be the advertising. Although, I mean, how much advertising do you have to do before you get back $1 billion? You know, it's a big purchase, but.
I mean, if you think about it, they have 715,000 concurrent viewers during prime time. These are people watching other people play video games.
Right.
I personally don't get it. It's not to say that there isn't a market for that. It's not something that I'm into, but I'm not into watching other people play video games. It reminds me of my childhood when my cousin would invite me to his house to play a new game, and then he would sit there and play the entire thing, and I'd be forced to sit there and watch him. He wouldn't let anybody else play.
I don't get that.
But listen, the kids are doing it, and that's where the money is. This is the next generation.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know, you need to kind of appeal to them. But you're right. Amazon bought them just so Google doesn't. And
I think so. Yeah.
People that use the service, and I was surprised about this, they are really happy that Google didn't buy this company.
Yeah. Well,
it's interesting. Like, why are they happy? Because Google, for some reason, many reasons, but they are now they're getting the perception that people have the perception of Google that people once had of Microsoft.
Sure.
You know, it's a big bad company. They're gonna come in
frankly.
and take everything away, and we're not gonna have the same service anymore. So it's interesting that Amazon bought it. Now, what are they gonna do with it? That's what I want to know.
Basically, what they've said is they're going to continue it as a standalone service. I mean, I don't understand what they could integrate it with, right? You're not going to want to watch Twitch videos while you're shopping. In fact, that would be detrimental to Amazon. They want you to buy stuff, not sit there and watch a video. So I don't quite understand what they're going to do other than, you know, keep it running. I honestly don't get it. I find this whole thing to be very bizarre.
The long run, I see them getting into the ad game like Google is. And using this as a platform for their ads. It's an easy sell to gamers. It's an easy sell to products. Look, we have the largest, you know, gaming platform in the world. We have 715,000 in prime time. These are major numbers for internet streaming. then they got to make money somehow. Amazon hemorrhages money every quarter, so it's interesting. I don't see how they're going to integrate it. You're right.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
Unless they put it on the Fire TV.
Well,
Watch
yeah,
it on your Fire.
Actually, so yes, of course they will. And
but there's an app on every platform. Every platform has an app.
Amazon does TV shows, as you know, and they, in fact, I think this week they just released some new pilots. People can go in and vote, for them and so forth. That's a fairly mainstream kind of entertainment type option, and I could see that being a big deal for the typical Fire TV buyer, the heavy Amazon user. But watching video games, I mean, obviously they will add that, but like why? I mean, like what's the point?
And also remember, Justin TV, which is the parent company of Twitch, or now Twitch is the parent company of Justin TV, just shut down 2 weeks ago. They just shut it down.
Oh, really?
So they were preparing for something. I mean, they never made money from it, and that's pretty much the reason why. But it doesn't make sense now that they shut it down that Google didn't buy them.
Right.
So it's an interesting story, and I want to see what happens with it. Also, that Fire phone is not selling.
Yeah. Where's that data from, though, by the way?
Where is that data from? That's a good question. I had the story, and I didn't copy and paste it.
Yeah, I saw the headline. I didn't read it. It's pretty clear that it's not doing great. But, when Jeff Bezos was asked about that at the launch event, what they were going to do if it didn't sell well, et cetera, he positioned it as kind of a launch.
It's The Guardian that's speculating this, actually.
Okay. Well, they're legitimately.
Yeah. They're saying that it sold no more than 35,000 units.
Okay.
That's not good.
It's not a lot. Yeah. So,
to put that into perspective, the OnePlus One phone that I have, that is an invite-only phone, and that nobody has sold over 100,000 phones.
Sure. Just from,
and it's an invite phone with no marketing.
Right.
So that's not good. No.
Well, in the tablet space, the Kindle tablet thing, I've gone from really respecting to kind of disrespecting because it's too Amazon focused. It's too buy, too much store up front. Even, Apple, for all of their incredible e-commerce capabilities, is not throwing stuff in your face, buy. You have to go in and find the app if you want to buy something. And I'm kind of starting to resent that. And it seems like it's worked okay in the tablet, but when you make a phone like that, it's so bald-faced. This notion of like, oh, are you in a retail store? Like, aim the camera at something. You can buy it cheaper on Amazon. I mean, it's so predatory, and it's so disgustingly American too. I mean, in a way, we're so just focused on owning things, buying things, and shopping, and it's kind of everything that's wrong with technology in a way.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Paul. I got to get out of here. I need to fix all the problems in the studio. This is a sad day for me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. This is bad.
I can tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a nap today so I can stay up to a reasonable time.
Are you still recovering? I mean, it's been 2 days.
It's going to be the better part of the week. It just takes a while. You have those kind of up and down times where you have a day where you think, wow, I got up at 7 today. That's normal. Stay up till 10. Everything's great. And the next day you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like it's just, it's not a linear thing. Like it will happen. Getting out in the sun will help. I'm going to walk today too and get outside a little bit, but
yeah,
that takes a while.
It'll get better, Paul. No, sadly, we are not going to do the post show today. I need to fix this problem pronto, and if I don't fix it within the next 40 minutes, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I promise I will make it up next week with a really good show.
Wow.
I promise. That's a guarantee. We'll see y'all next week, guys. Take care.